Ready to upgrade your setup without wasting hours on spec sheets and hype? Here are the 7 best 1440p gaming monitors ranked from good to unbeatable, tested, compared, and explained, so you pick once and enjoy for years. Here's what's inside. A straight countdown from 7 to 1 covering color, motion clarity, HDR, build, ports, and real-world gaming feel across esports, cinematic single-player, and mixed use, with a few honest drawbacks called out early, and the top spots reserved for the panels that legitimately feel next-gen. Number 7. MSI G274QPF-QD. If a clean, bright 27-inch IPS at 1440p with wide color is the target, MSI's G274QPF-QD lands as a sensible entry point that punches above its budget price, especially for everyday gaming and content use. The rapid IPS panel does what it says on the tin. Motion handling is snappy for 170 Hz, input lag is low, and the quantum dot backlight delivers rich saturation that's immediately noticeable versus standard sRGB monitors. Text looks crisp at 109 ppi, and the stand adjustment plus USB-C with basic charging makes it easy to dock a laptop and get straight to work or play. Color performance is a highlight here. DCI-P3 coverage in the mid-90s and Adobe RGB in the 90% range give games like Cyberpunk and Diablo a lush, vivid feel without the oversaturation artifacts some cheaper panels struggle with. SDR accuracy calibrates nicely, and the QD backlight avoids the washed-out look that can plague entry-level IPS. For creators dabbling in photo-video, it's passable for non-critical work thanks to the gamut and uniformity. In fast motion, the panel keeps up sufficiently for casual and mid-core FPS. Overdrive tuning is competent, avoiding the worst inverse ghosting spikes, and VRR compatibility works smoothly across AMD and NVIDIA GPUs. If you're stepping up from a 60-75 Hz panel, the difference in fluidity at 170 Hz is dramatic in titles like Apex and Fortnite, especially with a mid-range GPU targeting 1470 FPS. Number 6. AOC Q27G3XMN. The AOC is the shocker in this list, a 27-inch 1440p VA with a true mini LED backlight and 336 dimming zones at a price most competitors can't touch, delivering real HDR with highlights well above 1000 nits and black levels that blow basic IPS out of the water. For single-player games with night scenes in neon, think Alienware 2, RE4 Remake, or Cyberpunk, it looks dramatically richer and more cinematic than standard edge-lit panels. Brightness headroom is the story. This panel can clock past 100 nits in measured scenarios, which gives specular highlights real punch while maintaining shadow detail thanks to zone-based local dimming. SDR also benefits with excellent perceived contrast and vibrant color coverages in sRGB and DCI-P3. For movie nights and HDR content, it's far ahead of typical entry-level gaming monitors, making it a budget gateway to real HDR. Motion is solid for VA and surprisingly competitive at a 180 Hz overclock, though you'll still see some VA smearing in darker transitions compared with the best IPS or OLED panels. Overdrive needs a little manual tuning depending on your frame rate, strong at fixed high Hz, medium with VRR to limit overshoot at fluctuating FPS. If you play a lot of ultra-fast competitive shooters, you might prefer the feel of IPS or OLED, but for mixed gaming, it delivers. There are some trade-offs that keep it at 6. Blooming can appear around bright UI elements on dark backgrounds due to the finite zone count, nowhere near as bad as edge-lit haloing, but visible in certain scenes. Five. ASUS ROG XG27 ACMG. ASUS aims at the sweet spot, 27-inch 1440p, high refresh, and ROG-level tuning for clarity and usability. The appeal here is the balance. Fast response for 165 to 180 Hz play, strong SDR color, and the polish ASUS brings in OSD controls, presets, and quality-of-life features like good stands and reliable VRR behavior. It feels like a monitor that just works, regardless of genre. In day-to-day gaming, motion performance is nimble with well-judged overdrive that doesn't swing wildly into overshoot when frame rates dip. The panel renders fine text cleanly, which matters if you work on the same display, and ASUS's calibration out of the box is typically strong for an SDR-first monitor. The ergonomics and port layout also make it easy to integrate into multi-device desks. While it's not a mini LED or OLED, color volume and uniformity put in real work for vibrant SDR games and streaming content. It's the kind of screen where hopping from Valorant to Baldur's Gate 3 feels natural. No endless tweaking, just stable, accurate visuals and snappy input feel. HDR is serviceable but basic. Expect limited highlight definition compared with FALD or OLED, and blacks won't sync the way self-emissive pixels can. For some, that's a non-issue if SDR is 95% of usage. For others chasing HDR wow factor, this isn't the ticket. But as a primary 1440p panel for mixed productivity and high refresh gaming, it's calm, capable, and consistent. 4. Alienware A2725DF. Stepping into OLED changes the conversation entirely, and the Alienware A2725DF brings that self-emissive magic to 27-inch 1440p with ultra-fast response and perfect per-pixel blacks. The first thing noticed isn't just speed, it's depth. Scenes with starfields, dim interiors, and neon signage gain dimension that even good mini LEDs can't quite match due to the absence of blooming and the instantaneous pixel transitions. Motion clarity is elite. With OLED-class response times, smearing disappears and micro-movements track precisely, making camera pans and flicks feel natural and responsive. Pair that with high refresh and VRR, and the tactile connection in shooters or racers feels sharpened. UI elements retain crisp edges during movement, which keeps competitive play readable. Color volume is impressive, and HDR highlights are vivid within OLED's windowed brightness behavior. The contrast in horror titles and moody RPGs delivers that window into the world vibe. For users coming from IPS, the leap in perceived quality is unmistakable. Even simple menus look more inked. Caveats exist with any OLED. Full screen brightness is lower than mini LED, so bright daytime rooms may call for shades. There's also the typical OLED care package: pixel shift, logo dimming, and periodic refresh to mitigate image retention in mixed desktop use. Many gamers find these background processes unnoticed in daily play, but awareness helps. As a gaming-first panel, the AW2725DF delivers the OLED experience without overcomplicating the setup, and it secures a high slot because it meaningfully elevates both motion and contrast, two pillars that define how games feel minute to minute. 3. ASUS G274QPF-QD. ASUS doubles down on OLED's strengths with a tuned 27-inch 1440p experience that leans into extreme motion fidelity and deep blacks, while maintaining the creature comforts that keep long sessions comfortable. If you care how a crosshair tracks during rapid strafes, or how foliage looks when the sun flares through the trees, this panel satisfies both speed and spectacle. Expect instantaneous pixel response that preserves fine detail in motion, no dark smearing, no trailing, just clean edges. Paired with high refresh and well-supported VRR, it feels effortless to hold and adjust targets at speed, especially in tactical shooters where readability during chaos matters. HDR performance carries OLED's signature infinite contrast, with meaningful highlight flare in small bright elements and true black shadows. ASUS's OLED care features and tuning mitigate retention anxiety, and the UX is clean, making it painless to switch profiles for different games or tasks. As with all OLEDs, full-screen sustained brightness won't match mini LED light cannons, and the desktop text experience can show minor fringing depending on sub-pixel layout and app scaling. For pure gaming use, these limitations are easy to accept given the sheer leap in perceived contrast and motion. For players who split time between competitive play and cinematic single-player, the G27AQDMG feels like the OLED that just fits a 1440p gaming life. Rich, razor-sharp, and fast. 2. MSI MAG 2071QPX. The MSI MAG pushes QD OLED into the sweet 1440p 27-inch zone and does it with the kind of speed and color pop that makes games look alive. Quantum dot enhancement adds saturated yet believable color volume, while the self-emissive panel ensures deep blacks and zero blooming. It's the kind of monitor that makes even older titles look remastered simply through contrast and motion clarity. Where it shines is consistency. The VRR window is broad, overdrive is essentially a non-issue thanks to OLED response, and latency feels invisible. Competitive play benefits from the hyper-legible motion, and cinematic games benefit from the per-pixel lighting. It's a rare combination that feels like an upgrade in every genre. HDR on QD OLED looks especially punchy, with color-rich highlights and excellent ABL behavior in mixed scenes. UI elements stay crisp without haloing, and dark rooms become an asset rather than a weakness. If you've avoided HDR because it looked fake on edge-lit displays, this panel fixes that perception quickly. As with other OLEDs, long static desktop use requires awareness of care features, but MSI's implementation offers sensible protection tools. Bright daylight rooms still favor mini LED for sheer nit output, but most gaming environments will be well served by the luminance on tap here. For a 27-inch 1440p battle station focused on stunning visuals and elite motion, the 274QPX is a top-tier pick that feels thoroughly modern without compromise in gaming feel. ROG. 1. ASUS G274QPF-QD. At number 1 is the ASUS ROG Swift, the current pinnacle of 27-inch 1440p gaming thanks to an honest 480Hz refresh on OLED with VRR and HDR simultaneously, turning both competitive and cinematic experiences into something that feels a generation ahead. The sheer smoothness at 480Hz isn't just about raw FPS, it's about visual stability when the view is in motion, crosshairs stay glued, microstutters fade, and aiming feels like an extension of intent. This panel marries elite speed with OLED contrast, delivering true blacks and lightning-fast 0.3 millisecond class transitions that eliminate blur trails entirely. The result is a screen that makes fast tracking and target reacquisition feel effortless while preserving fine scene detail that would blur away on slower panels. For esports, it's enormous. For everything else, it's beautiful. HDR is no afterthought. Windowed peaks can hit into the four-figure nit range while maintaining that inky OLED black level, so particle effects, neon, and sun glints snap off the screen without haloing. The panel also supports LMB-style blur reduction up to 240Hz for systems that can't push extreme frames, keeping motion clarity accessible across builds. ASUS adds thoughtful touches, a robust port layout with DP 1.4 and dual HDMI 2.1, a proper USB hub, and OLED care features that reduce flicker perception and manage panel health during mixed desktop and gaming use. The result is an apex display that still behaves like a daily driver. No diva behavior, just elite performance. Final thought. If budget is tight and HDR curiosity is high, the AOC at 6 is the sleeper hit. If all-around SDR and color accuracy matter most without chasing HDR, the MSI IPS at 7 is the calm value pick. For motion and immersion, the top 4 bring OLED magic, with the ASUS G274QPF-QD standing alone as the ultimate 1440p gaming experience today.